kind of had to chuckle when I saw them tee you up. Did you say something in Spanish or English, or what was the deal with that?
Started off in English, ended up in Spanish.
It's Bob Holt asking Eric Musselman, I guess a fairly obvious question when it comes to getting a technical and you're playing a game in Spain. And I guess Muss is multilingual. We've got Bob Holt with us right now from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Bob, appreciate you, man. When you saw Muss get the technical in the first quarter, you're thinking, "Wow, he's in mid-season form." You didn't think he'd be asking about a tee here in August, did you?
Well, it wasn't a total shock. I know we asked him. We talked to Eric. I think it was 3 different times from June, and then in July, and then in August before they went over. And I asked them. I can't remember exactly how I phrased the question, but I kind of asked him about, the officials over there. You assume, talk about home cooking. You think you'd really get home cooking when you're going across the ocean, as the other team would. And he said, from his international experience, which he's had a lot of international coaching experience, that they are pretty quick to tee up. And I think Arkansas was up by about 30 at the time, but the free throw differential was pretty blatant. And so I think Eric was probably, complaining about that. And but obviously it didn't have any impact on the game. Just kind of a fun thing, honestly.
So impressions of what you saw. It's the first game. It's one game. Everybody played. We know quite often it's not going to be that kind of a situation with this team, but impressions of the first game that you watched.
Well, yeah, obviously. That other team, I'm not really familiar with their roster, the Valencia. I think it's like Valencia and translated into English. But, yeah, it was impressive. Just their athleticism. They just totally overwhelmed them. I counted 17 dunks for Arkansas and a lot in the open court. Just, Nick Smith looked really good, scoring in a variety of ways, hitting some three-pointers. Obviously, they need to improve three-point shooting. That was an issue last year, and it looks like they're going to have better three-point shooting with some of the guys they have. And, very impressive. But also, Eric talked about how there's some things they have to work on. They gamble too much on defense, need to show more discipline. But it just showed, I think, what a good, deep roster they have, and it's really going to be interesting to see how they divide up playing time. Obviously, guys like Nick Smith and Jordan Walsh and Anthony Black and some others are going to play a lot of minutes, but Eric's known for having a pretty tight rotation, 7-8 guys. Certainly by the time they get to SEC play, it'll be interesting to see if maybe he goes a little deeper because there's a lot of talent on this team.
Yeah, and there's a lot of newcomers, too. When you count the transfers and the freshmen, there's 11 of them. 11 of them. And, look, this is the way that college sports teams are built now, but nobody does it any better as far as the transfer portal, and now maybe through high school recruiting than Eric Musselman. And there's a sense like this is the kind of trip that a team with 11 newcomers would really want to have in order to get a sense of how they get along off the court, on the court, and coaches will tell you, and it's true, nothing brings a team together more than traveling together and winning when you're traveling together. And the opportunity to do that when there's really just a few handfuls of college basketball teams that are taking international trips like this in August, and I know you have to wait another, I think it's 4 or 5 years to do one of these again. Like, this is the right team to have a trip like this right now, right?
Yeah, and they've talked about the chemistry's been pretty good. Most of these guys have been on campus since late May, early June. Anthony Black got in a little late because he was playing with the under 20 team or under 19 team, the USA team in Mexico, where they just blitzed 6 opponents, won by about an average of 40 points. But when you fly together, I think it was a 9-hour flight over there. And if they probably slept a good bit of that, I would think maybe not. I certainly would have, I think. But, yeah, and you can see they're doing a lot of fun activities together. They're posting videos on social media where they're spending a lot of time on the beach, playing football and volleyball without a net, just having a good time. And I think it's great that Eric is letting them have a lot of fun. Obviously, the most fun is when you go and play good basketball, but he's letting them do things and Sounds like the guys are pretty smart about having a good time, but also when it's time to get up their feet, they're getting rested, fresh for the game. That's also where it helps you play 13 guys. I mean, you're not playing anybody 30 minutes or whatever. And but yeah, I think a trip like this for any team would be a good bonding experience, especially when you have that many new players. You're right, the timing's really good. Although you wonder if this is going to become the norm, where you're having, I don't know, about 11 newcomers every year, but I think most good college.
Hey, Bob, we're having a little trouble with the connection here with you. I don't know if you got some phone issues or something.
Sorry, is that better?
Yeah, it sounds like it's better. Sounds like it's a little bit better. So thanks for checking into that.
Okay.
24-second shot clock. It's a team also that's built for speed, and not every Eric Musselman team is going to be trying to get it down the court lickety split. But certainly when you create a turnover, you're going to look to do that. I love the idea that they're playing international rules because of the 24-second clock, and I think they are excited about that as well. These other teams are used to playing with that, so they're getting down the court awfully quickly. Maybe initially that takes them a little bit by surprise, but offensively, man, I love the idea that this team can get down the floor quickly and create quickly.
Yeah, I don't think they had any shot clock violations the other day. I might be wrong about that, but I don't remember one, and they were, like you said, there was a lot of points off turnovers where they were playing in the open court, fast break opportunities, and then when they did come down and set up, they got off, pretty good shots most of the time. Maybe it was a couple times the shot clock was running down. I think maybe there was one Devo had to jack one up from pretty deep, but Devo Davis. But yeah, for the most part, they got really good looks. I think they shot close to 60% from the field from unofficial stats, and and of course the NBA plays with a 24-second shot clock, and all these guys want to play in the NBA, and I think a lot of them are going to play in the NBA, so they'll get back to the 30-second shot clock when the season starts, when the regular season starts, but I'm sure they probably like playing with a 24-second shot clock because that's the an advertisement of things to come for them.
Mm-hmm. Now, Bob, we know that with a lot of these trips and the teams that a lot of the college teams play, either overseas, down in the Caribbean, just wherever they decide to do their international little basketball tour, that the reason why these games are played at night for the most time is so that guys can go to their 9 and 5 and then put on their basketball shoes and go to the gym. But with this Barcelona team, this is actually a professional team and probably, from what I've been told, the closest to talent that they're going to see throughout the regular season. Is that the case, and it's going to get back to easier, or is the level of competition going to go up when it gets into Italy, as far as you know?
I'll be honest, I'm not really that sure about the rosters. I also know these things can be in flux. I mean, I was looking at the Valencia team. Look them up. You can Google Valencia, Celestio, however you say that word. Mm-hmm. And it talked about how their next game was in October, so this is their off season, and might just be, hey, what guys can you get? I know that the other team, Valencia, had a couple American players on their roster, but those guys didn't play in the game. So I'll be honest, I'm not really sure about the opponents. I think it's older guys, and that's probably good for them to play some of those teams. Obviously, that team the other day was no match for them, and I'm sure Eric would like to get some better competition. But I'll be honest, I'm not really sure about the rosters, and I think they could be in flux, with who can play, who's available, how much they're paying them, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talked about it earlier about how it's going to be hard to see where Musselman's going to cut this rotation down, because normally, throughout as the season progressed, we know that Musselman likes to get it down to, a 7-man rotation. But with how much talent they have right now, could you see that? And I know we're only one game in, so this is a lot to ask, for you to predict. Could you see a possible 10, 11-man rotation, not just to start the season, but through March?
Man, it's hard for me to picture Eric playing 10 or 11 guys, in a big rotation, and as they're going in the NCAA tournament or SEC play. That just, to me, hadn't been his MO. But one thing is they have the good depth now. If guys get injured, obviously, hope everybody stays healthy. But if they have some issues, I think they've got some guys who can step up and fill in for minutes, but I could see maybe expanding the bench a little bit, but playing 10, 11 guys, that's just hard to picture. I think he wants to give his best players, well over 30 minutes, and then you're going to see maybe 3 guys off the bench, maybe 4, but it also gives them flexibility depending on who they're playing. Are they playing a big team? Are they playing a smaller, quicker team? So he's got some good flexibility if they want to play small ball, quote, although small ball would be a relative term with this team because they're so big everywhere. But, I don't see Eric playing 10 or 11 guys. That's just hard for me to picture, although obviously that'll be up to him.
Hey, Bob, before we let you go, I want to ask about your piece about Isaiah Satania in the Democrat-Gazette today. Who was it in the article here that says football and track are kind of like brothers? Like, these are the 2 sports. If you're going to do 2 sports, this is the way to do it. Football and baseball is really difficult to pull off. Football and basketball is really difficult to pull off. We've seen that in the case of Connor Noland, Matt Jones, a few others. But football and track certainly work in tandem if you're going to be on the outside, the outdoor track team and play football at the same time. And the coaches seem to be totally agreeable to Isaiah doing this. So he's got the opportunity to not just, play football and play track and run track at Arkansas, but be a star maybe in both cases.
Yeah, there's Chris Buckman, the men's track coach at Arkansas, that said that those sports are like brothers, and I thought it was a great point. If you're obviously having a good football season, you want to be playing into January in a bowl situation. Excuse me, and then that's about the time the track season starts. And it's like Chris said, the better Isaiah does in football, the more he'll get to do in track, because if he plays a lot of football, they'll say, okay, well, he's got this thing down pretty good. Let's let him focus on track. If he maybe has some issues, which a lot of freshmen would, they might say, well, he can go work, do track workouts and go to meets, but he needs to do more football stuff in the spring. So we'll see how that shakes out. But certainly Isaiah was not going to go to a school that wasn't going to offer, both sports. And, he committed to A&M originally. They have really good track. Committed to Oregon, then they have really good track, then ultimately came to Arkansas. That we know they have really good track, and of course his dad was a track guy, NCAA champion in the decathlon at LSU, and his mom was a sprinter for the Jamaican Olympic team. So he obviously has good track genes, but I think they're going to do a good job of sharing him and doing what's best for Isaiah. And, ultimately, hopefully he'll have, a decision to make on those calls, too, like, well, I want to focus on this, right now, Well,
I also saw in the article he wants to play in the NFL and be in the Olympics, so he might not be making that choice for a while. Bob, appreciate you, man. Thanks for your time, as always.
Online is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. Bet online, where the game starts.